My loving girlfriend who once supported me through trauma changed overnight after college started. "I don't love you anymore," she said with a smile. Now I confront a shell of the girl I knew, fearing I might lose everything while battling my health issues. Will she ever come back? We dated for approximately 1.5 years, and for the first year, everything was quite positive. We were supportive of each other and loved each other deeply. We hardly fought, and if we ever needed reassurance, we were there for one another. It was the healthiest relationship I have experienced in my tumultuous life, and I have endured a significant amount of trauma that I have never shared with anyone other than her. She made me feel better about myself when those experiences affected me. Our entire relationship was everything I had ever desired, and it was all she wanted as well. We consistently supported each other until August 2024. We always maintained work commitments and friendships outside of our relationship, but both of us felt jealous when we spent time with anyone of the opposite gender. Therefore, I gradually reduced my communication with women over time, eventually ceasing entirely for her sake. She did the same but still maintained contact with perhaps some older friends, which I did not mind. When her college began in August 2024, I sensed her distancing from me. I frequently worried about losing sleep over her and whether she would continue to be with me. I communicated my concerns about certain behaviors, and she would reassure me, but after a week of stopping, she would revert to those behaviors. Additionally, during this time, I was overwhelmed by a substantial amount of stress related to my family, which emotionally drained me. I started to contemplate whether a break would be beneficial for us, as I did not want my emotional struggles to affect her negatively. She, of course, declined the idea, and I accepted her decision. Throughout August and September, things continued to deteriorate. I became increasingly worried and stressed about our relationship and would occasionally express frustration at her for not taking my feelings seriously. I knew she loved me, but my anxiety inhibited me from feeling secure. During this period, she devoted more time to her musical career and joined a band at her college that performed gigs at various venues. Simultaneously, I began to focus more on my sport, which required extensive travel between three major cities across the country. She never truly made time for me. She never canceled a practice or came home late, while I frequently booked extra flights to see her and canceled races. I did not do this expecting her to reciprocate, but it would have been nice for her to prioritize time for us. This, alongside other issues, weighed on me. Whenever I voiced my concerns, she listened and seemed to take them seriously, but she never implemented any changes. In October, I suffered a severe illness for nearly 2 weeks and found myself hospitalized, receiving injections every 2 hours without a single decent night's sleep. During that time, I asked her if she could spend extra time with me or stay longer when she couldn't meet me, and she agreed but yet again failed to follow through. In September, she had expressed excitement about Boyfriend's Day. At first, I did not care much, but her enthusiasm made me look forward to it. Unfortunately, I was in the hospital at that time. On that day, something shifted within me. She did not text me at all throughout the day, and I did not call her either. She returned home around 10 p.m., which was typical, as her practice often took up the entire evening. After spending time with her mother watching a movie, she sent me a message at 11:58 p.m. wishing me happy Boyfriend's Day. "I love you a lot. I am sorry I couldn't text today. I am going to sleep." After a full day of suffering with nosebleeds, constant headaches, and vomiting, which she was aware of, I received those three messages, and that was it. Looking back, I realize it may not have been a significant issue, but her actions throughout September and October left me feeling miserable, and no matter how much I communicated with her or how much she professed her love, I did not see any meaningful change. Once I recovered, I began to view her differently. She seemed unchanged. I knew she loved me deeply and was genuinely happy with me, but I had felt miserable during those 2 months, and I could not continue in a state where I was literally begging for help. She would cry when I expressed how her treatment affected me, yet she never changed sufficiently to make a real difference. In the latter half of October and the first week of November, I found it increasingly difficult to cope. Every 5 days, I would confront her about her behavior, leading to lengthy discussions where I often ended up insulting her for how I felt. I began to express my need for a breakup, but she insisted we could work through it as we had before, and I believed her. She did make some changes, but they were short-lived, often reverting after just a week. I explained that I needed her support and that if she was not there for me during tough times, I would not be able to handle the stress, which led me to feel we should break up. She would hold me, apologize for everything, and I would invariably feel weak and end up apologizing myself. I became acutely aware of my actions after witnessing her tears and would feel guilty for how I reacted. After these weeks of arguments, I began to feel somewhat better. We became healthier again. It wasn't the same as before, but it represented a significant improvement, and we continued to progress. I had an international race that I was only able to approach with her support, and she won her singing competition. However, whenever things deteriorated even slightly, I would feel anxious and seek her reassurance. If she could not provide it, I felt abandoned, leading to minor arguments that were usually resolved. She began to feel low, believing she was unable to keep me happy. I reassured her, expressing my love and optimism about our future together. In December, she stopped communicating with me for 3 or 4 days, which made me feel abandoned once again. I could not endure these games, so I asked for a breakup. She cried, insisting that we would still talk. I still loved her and mentioned, "We will still talk, we will still meet, it's just that I cannot be there for you if you aren't there for me right now. I am really stressed and have too many responsibilities, and I tend to take it out on you." She told me it didn't matter as long as I was with her. I regret how I handled that situation. She was depressed for 5 days, and when I finally saw her, she appeared empty and sad. I approached her, embraced her, and assured her that I would always be there for her. We cuddled and fell asleep together, and she proclaimed that she would never leave my side, and I affirmed that I would never leave hers either. Here comes the confusing part. 2 weeks later, just before Christmas, she expressed her desire for a break. I was perplexed, and she stated that she did not want any communication with me, offering no explanations. When I requested reasons, she did not provide them, so I continued to message her during a period when she wanted no contact. I spent Christmas and New Year's alone, worrying about her while she attended some house party with close friends. I felt depressed due to her unwillingness to explain her actions. In January, she called me and requested to meet. I agreed, and when we met, she looked back at me with the same affection she had before. We enjoyed the best date we had ever shared, and she expressed how happy she was to see me. I told her, "I love you," but she hesitated and did not reciprocate. The following day, we communicated more, but by the end of it, she reminded me, "We are still on no contact, by the way. Just because I am nice right now doesn't mean we are officially together." I asked her repeatedly for clarification, but this time she left me unseen. 3 weeks later, she called again to inform me she wanted to end our relationship. She outlined issues I believed had already been resolved. She herself had said they were when we were together, and spoke to me as if I were insignificant. She smiled narcissistically while saying things like, "My eyes have opened, and I no longer love you," with a knowing grin. It felt as though she were another person entirely, as that was not the girl I had known. I tried to penetrate the emotional barrier she had erected and held her in my arms while she began to weep, saying, "You hurt me, and I do not like who I have been with you in these past months." I consoled her, assuring her that we could easily resolve our issues if she would trust me, but she did not believe me. After that interaction, she changed significantly, adopting black nail polish, red highlights in her hair, a new haircut, a different style of clothing, and a more social demeanor. When I reached out for explanations, which I believed were justified, she did not respond. When she did, her attitude had shifted dramatically towards me. One thing I distinctly recall was her stating that she felt small with me. She mentioned that she had never had anyone make her feel small before, and when I inquired about what made her feel that way, she claimed that I never laughed at her jokes, despite always having done so. She believed that the things she enjoyed, like her music, were unimportant to me, which was not the case. During our conversations, she treated me with complete disregard, saying whatever hurtful things she pleased, which I do not wish to remember. I reached out to her for another chance, feeling as though she still loved me when we spoke about it, but it seemed she had developed a protective shell against me. Long story short, she agreed to try again, but only for 2 weeks. I explained that this time frame did not seem sufficient, but she insisted she despised my mannerisms. She listed specific behaviors: how you converse with me about serious subjects, how you eat, how you smile, I hate your jokes now, and so forth. She requested that before the 2 weeks started, we have a proper period of no contact for a week, and I agreed. However, 4 days into that week, I discovered her liking a post from someone else, which made me feel awful. I called her to inquire about why she liked it, and she replied, "Even if I like it, it should not affect you, we are not together." I countered, "So you can just hook up with someone else and it shouldn't bother me." She responded, "Even if I did hook up, which I haven't, you have no right to control me." I was taken aback, thinking, "What do you mean? We are on a break right now, how can you say that?" She clarified, "It is a break, not a breakup." I reminded her that we had previously agreed that this was a break because we were planning to reconcile, referencing her text, but she left me on read. We cut the break short, and she continued to argue with me, claiming I was forcing her to try again and trying to control her. These accusations were thrown around so frequently that they began to lose their meaning. I never forced her or tried to control her, so I was confused about where this was coming from. Before the 2 weeks commenced, she declared that she had no love for me and that she would attempt to see if she could develop feelings for me again. During those 2 weeks, she was harsh, cold, narcissistic, and avoided accountability. Anything I deemed important was dismissed, and I found myself chasing after her like a dog. The first week was the most promising, in my opinion. We seemed to be improving daily. I would ask her how she felt talking to me, and by the week's end, she said she was happy to converse with me and had a renewed sparkle in her eyes. It seemed to be working when she listened attentively. However, she stopped communicating again for 3 days, and upon her return, she reverted to her previous behavior. 2 days into the second week, she stated, "I do not love you and cannot. I am only doing these next 5 days to get rid of you." You can imagine how that second week unfolded. On the final day, she expressed hatred towards me. I asked for a hug, which she initially did not want to give. When I hugged her, I kissed her forehead and told her I loved her. When I released her, I noticed a tear in her eye, but she pushed me away. I questioned why she had mentioned enjoying our talks during the first week. She replied, "I was ignoring my own feelings." During the second week, I asked her what love meant to her, and she said it was 70% emotions and 30% choice and actions. I responded that it was immature to think that way, and now everything she did made sense to me. I attempted to reason with her, but she said, "Stop trying to force and control me." For your information, she had never behaved like this before December. Throughout the time we were genuinely together, she was the complete opposite, literally the ideal partner. I believe a part of her still loves me and recognizes that we function well together, but this hardened exterior exists now because I hurt her. I want her back desperately. I wish to cup her face, kiss her, and love her until my last breath, yet I have not had the chance to express that. I suffer from a serious medical condition that causes strokes as well as nose and ear bleeds. I am uncertain if I will survive until the end of this year if I continue to experience stress. She does not know this, and if I were to tell her, I doubt that this hardened aspect of her would care. Recently, I called her to express how much I missed her, and she stated she was happier talking and socializing with her college friends, mostly male, rather than being in a relationship with me or anyone else. I refuse to believe that is true because of what she shared with me during our relationship. I do not want to accept that people change so rapidly. Just last night, she was featured on a song with a male friend she has known since 2021. He is approximately 8 years older and is dating another woman. There was no video or anything, just her background vocals making suggestive remarks which made me feel physically ill. I cannot shake the feeling that she has betrayed me and transformed, yet part of me clings to the hope that she would not cheat on me. I am torn between two worlds. One where this new version of her might indeed cheat, and the other where the person I once adored, who promised to take care of me, still exists. Story 2. After 3 years in a new country, my best friend started fading away, saying she needed time while I faced depression and a terminal cancer diagnosis in my family. Every time I needed her, she'd disappear into her new friendships. How much longer can I stay in this one-sided love? I need an outside perspective on this entire situation, not from a friend. I would like feedback from someone I do not know. If you are someone who knows me, please take everything you read here and keep it confidential. For a brief background, I moved to the country I am currently living in about 3 years ago. I had to leave almost everything behind to come to this Muslim country. I am from a Latino country, so the culture shock was overwhelming. The level of educational standards here is vastly more sophisticated than in my home country, making it feel akin to attending university back home. As I mentioned, I moved to a new country and had no friends. The connection between me and my friends from my home country broke down. We barely communicate, and it is a miracle we even talk occasionally. Moreover, when I moved here, I arrived in the midst of COVID-19 and was also at the peak of my depression, having just ended a relationship just before coming here. At the school I enrolled in, I met my best friend. When I refer to her as my best friend, I mean that she is the only person I consider as such. I have just one best friend. You are either my friend or a close friend, but I will only designate one person as my best friend. I have been best friends with her for about the same duration that I have been in this new country. She and I are very close. She also considers me her best friend. We used to, and I emphasize the word used, talk every day, whether in person or online. Most days we were on calls for hours, went on outings with friends, and I would sometimes surprise her by visiting her at 10 p.m. This was significant since her parents are very protective and have issues with letting her hang out with male friends unless at least one other girl is present, making my visits a considerable step above that. Interestingly, despite this, they do not mind my presence because they have met me several times and even all her siblings know me. Some of her sisters get excited when I come to visit. My family is aware of her as well, and she even had the opportunity to meet my grandparents when they visited me in this country. We are so alike that some people, including ourselves, say we are simply gender-bent versions of one another. To put it plainly regarding my feelings toward her, which is relevant to the entire situation, I love this girl. However, not in a conventional way. I love her as a friend, as a best friend, as someone who has supported her during her highs and lows. I love her platonically, but I also love her romantically, not in a lustful sense but in a more wholesome and sincere manner. Of all the best friends I have had, she is the first one I care for this deeply. I think this contributes to my romantic feelings. I have never had someone so wonderful and perfect as a friend that I do not want to share her with anyone. I suppose the most effective way to secure that is by being with her. I cannot fully articulate it, but I simply like her immensely. Although she had a boyfriend for a few months, I still loved her as a friend and was genuinely happy for her happiness, although her boyfriend ultimately did not turn out to be great. She's the only friend to whom I have given many gifts, and I care for this girl deeply. I might even consider marrying her. However, as we have both noted, we enjoy being best friends, and I will be honest, I am fine with that. Would I like her to be my girlfriend? Yes, but I also greatly value being her best friend. Simultaneously, it does not help that everything she seeks in a potential partner corresponds to me in some way. A significant event occurred after I had to transfer schools. Everything remained the same until she eventually moved back to her home country halfway through my time at this new school. Despite that, things were fine for a while. We communicated frequently and established a schedule to talk due to the time zone differences. This routine continued until she abruptly stopped communicating. I would text her, but she would not respond. This silence lasted almost a full month until she returned and explained that she had not been feeling well and had essentially isolated herself. For context, this was not the first time she had done something like that. Previously, she had isolated herself for about a week or so. When she feels overwhelmed or stressed, she tends to withdraw and cut off everyone. The key difference now was that before, she would communicate with me to some extent. She was overwhelmed with starting university and struggled to make friends, so I understood why she disappeared. After a few months, she returned to the country and we met up again. I once again showed up at her house in the middle of the night with some McDonald's to eat outside of her home. Those small hangouts with just the two of us will always be cherished memories. Eventually, she went back to her country to continue her university studies. She eventually made new friends, but that is when our relationship began to decline. After she made new friends and reconnected with an old one, she started to contact me less frequently. We had fewer calls together and we played fewer games together because she was occupied with her new friends and the old one. To be honest, I was happy for her, but it was disheartening that we were spending less time together, eventually barely communicating at all. Then came the time when I truly needed her. I was stressed and faced various problems. It became so severe that I experienced a complete breakdown and an anxiety attack, but she was not there for me, unlike the times I had supported her. When she did return, everyone's issues became old news. My depression would spike, leading me to engage in reckless behavior, and she was almost entirely absent during this time. However, she did come back not long after that and asked if I was okay. My foolish personality and mindset led me to lie to her, saying I was fine. I did not want to burden her. She pressed the issue one more time, but when I reaffirmed that I was fine, she believed me to some degree. Now bear in mind that I still leave breadcrumbs for my friends when something is wrong, and I have told her that if I am not in a good state, she should push me to open up as I struggle to ask for help. Unfortunately, she did not press me hard enough, so time progressed. She apologized for disappearing and not being there, to which I responded that I was fine since I was being somewhat unreasonable. When she returned to the country, I went all out on her goodbye present. I created a handwritten letter with drawings, we are both artists, and made her a flower from plastic spoons with a green dyed base so that when you place a light underneath, it turns green with white and black accents. Suffice it to say, she appreciated it. I also gave her a ring during another outing. She wears many rings, but I cannot deny that I had romantic thoughts while giving her that ring. Then she went back to her country, and we entered another cycle of her disappearing from my life. This time, it was due to that old friend I mentioned, who essentially used her as his emotional support and had feelings for her. She told me that she had absolutely no feelings for him, but being a people pleaser, she spent all her time with him, even knowing their friendship was toxic. During that time, she began to talk and vent to me again, but it was short-lived. After she finally ended things with him, she found a new friend group and I lost her once more. From that point, our interactions declined significantly. We rarely spoke, and when we did, it was only for short conversations. However, just a few weeks ago, we began talking more again, which is why I am writing this post. A few weeks ago, I received the news that my grandmother has cancer again, but this time it is terminal and she does not have long left. At a minimum, she has about 4 years, but with the type of cancer she has, it may be less, and it is a particularly painful type of cancer. Suffice it to say, I broke down and I desperately needed my best friend for emotional support. Although we had been communicating again, I thought she would be there for me. However, she was not available. Fortunately, she returned just 2 days after I received the news, but I then noticed she was at her grandmother's house, having lost her only a year ago. It was evident she was still struggling with that loss. I chose to hide my own feelings, refraining from telling her about my situation. She did not realize I was not doing well about a week after I received the news. At that time, I did not want to burden her, even though she pressed for details. Ultimately, she only asked twice if I was all right and then disappeared again. After I managed to work through my feelings, I saw that she had disappeared again because she was spending time with her friends there. While I am genuinely glad she has friends, it has been almost a year, and 90% of that period has consisted of me watching my best friend post almost daily about hanging out with her friends, while I, her so-called best friend, remained on the sidelines. To be clear, I am exhausted, and I need a stable friendship or, at the very least, someone who will be present when it matters and maintains regular communication. I do not want to keep experiencing hurt and disappointment from my best friend, whom I love dearly. I know she does not do this intentionally, it is simply her nature. But even when she recognizes her behavior, she becomes anxious and does not know how to reignite a conversation with me, even though I have tried my best to reassure her that she need not worry about any of that with me. Yet, this does not seem to be sufficient. I love her, I love being her best friend, and I adore that beautiful smile of hers that makes my heart flutter. However, I cannot continue if I am going to be hurt and disappointed repeatedly. I do not want this to end, but I do not know what else to do. I understand that if I have another lengthy conversation with her like all the previous times, things may be fine for a little while, but eventually she will revert to her old habits. From what I know, she has never experienced the painful lesson of losing a really good friend related to personal mistakes. After such an experience, one learns to take care of friends, the importance of staying in touch and ensuring they are okay. I fear I might become that lesson for her, but I do not want to be. However, the situation seems to be heading in that direction. The worst part is that not long ago, she expressed her feelings in her social media story instead of discussing them with someone. I genuinely want to help her with things I know I can assist her with, but given how I am feeling, I do not think I should do that right now. It feels so unjust, like I am contemplating ending our friendship just when she needs someone. However, I am weary of being continually hurt. If you made it this far, I commend you for your patience. I apologize for my ramblings. I struggle to articulate everything correctly. I have experienced a whirlwind of emotions for her, but I still do not know what to do. Thank you for reading, and I apologize for my lengthy story. Goodbye.